Read that resolution in the record.
Let me read it again. Okay. Start third, whereas the Shriners Tribe has made a commitment to the renovation of the CRST Power Arena and grounds, and whereas the CRST Fair Board has agreed to the emergent nature of the task order and has included a memo with their concurrence, and whereas the task order is for KLJ Engineering Incorporation to provide engineering and architectural services shall be provided to the Shriners Tribe Fair Board for the renovation of the CRST Power Arena and grounds in an amount not to exceed $239,500. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Shriners Tribe Executive Committee does hereby accept task order between the CRST Fair Board and KLJ Engineering Incorporation for the provision of engineering and architectural services to the Shriners Tribal Fair Board for the renovation of the CRST Power Arena and grounds. And the tribe's disclaimer. It's my motion, Chairman. Chairman, just for the record too, there was also a motion that approved of this executive resolution. There was a motion second, and it passed. Motion by Mr. Ronald Russo, Council Representative Russo, second by Council Representative Kenrick DePreez. Motion approved, June 30th.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Bartlett. I believe earlier we had second by Mr. Russo. You still second that, Ron?
Mr. Chairman,
Second still there? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I just, as he was reading this executive resolution, something jumped out at me, and that's the use of the word powwow. You know, I know we use that word powwow throughout Indian country, but it really does have some negative connotations. It goes back to when the military was describing our ceremonial dances. And they would say, oh, you know, those Indians over there, they're just having a powwow. And not recognizing that in our language, we have a word. We say wachipi. And, you know, I think we need to start, in my personal opinion, you know, rather than carry on misnomers, I think, you know, we should, again, bow to our language and our customs and traditions and strike that word powwow, you know, and insert wachipi and start using that word, wachipi. You know, we're Lakota. And the more that we can use our language, you know, to describe it, it helps to revitalize our language. It helps in our efforts of language preservation. And I think it needs to start, you know, from here. We've got to model that as leaders of this tribe. You know, we've got to recognize that people are going to take note of that, and they're going to respect who we are. So I know I would like to, I don't know if I need to make a motion to that effect, or if I can ask the maker of the motion and the person who seconded it, if you would agree to amend that part of the resolution, please. Thank you.
Mr. Bartlett, you want to do that?
Yeah, Chairman, the powwow, the washichi is kind of no powwow versus wachipi. So actually our poster, Fair Board poster for the powwow, it does state wachipi, but just for these legal documents, it states powwow. But yeah, we can also add wachipi in there, amend it.
Okay, motion's been amended to include wachipi. Second that?
Okay,
Are you against it?
still there.
Second still there by Mr. Russo. Mrs. Whitewell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So are we calling contracts task proposals now? Proposed task orders? Because I see a legal memo, but I don't see a contract checklist. This is a contract. It same thing that a contract requires. Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Treasurer, sorry. Is this gonna pass the audit? Because a task order proposal is the same thing as a contract. It consists of scope of services, a list of deliverables, staffing schedule, completed schedule, proposed sub-consultants, including in a detailed budget outlining billing rates, estimated number of hours for each discipline. And so I see that here, the standard procedures with the KLJ staff, and I'm not trying to put a kink in the plan or anything, but I don't see a contract checklist, Mr. Chairman. And I remember when I was on council before and I tried to pass things, they made me take it back and do a contract checklist and follow the procedures of our procurement manual. So I'm just asking the question, because I don't see it signed off, by anybody. Are we just now circumventing that and we're just gonna go ahead and just with the legal review, we just approve, excuse me, what do we call it?
But it still needs to
Approve this task, what is it, proposed task order? I mean, if you could just answer me that question, that's all I want to know, Mr. Chairman, Treasurer.
Yeah, Chairman, I can answer. Ms. Miller, you were out for some time from council, and I know you came back in and welcomed you back aboard, but
Thank you.
you missed some of these meetings and the work that we put into this, the travel that some of us representatives met with the engineering and these architects and the design, and you all seen a copy of the design. We don't really want to get that picture and get that out there just yet. But these guys already work for us, Ms. Miller. Yeah, these guys are already on board with us, KLJ. They work, actually, they come out of roads department, Dakota Long Break, and some of the executives kind of referred me to the KLJ because they're already on board with us. So we did an extension, 5-month extension a few months ago. And so this is just a resolution supporting that 239, 500 coming out of that million. We put $1 million there for the Power Arena too. So I don't know if you know that, but yeah, these guys already work for us.
Mr. Chairman. So I would like to ask the treasurer.
Still should have a checklist. Oh, did I? Still should have a contract checklist. You can make a motion pending submission of the contract checklist.
Okay, I'll amend my motion, Chairman.
And
To
Mr.
state that.
Again, like I said, I'm in full support of this, but we have to make sure that we follow the procedures that have been established. And I know the audits, and that's gonna be an audit finding if we're not consistent. So thank you so much.
Okay, motion's been amended to include pending the contract checklist. Second still there, Mr. Russo.
Second still there.
Madam Secretary, or you got comment, Mr.
Chairman,
Underwoods?
when the question comes up like this from the district board rep, you should get the memo that was given to us, the work product here, and it says that there's any concerns or comments regarding this is to get a hold of her. To get a hold of Holly Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond? Yeah, and we're in council right now, and so
And then to
I didn't
have her answer that question.
I didn't have the
Just
opportunity
like,
to do that.
I got the floor, Ms. Smith. Just like the legal report that we need to have and haven't had for a while, and I've had several legal questions with attorneys, but those timelines are gone now. It's burnt. It's frustrating to not get questions to legal concerns. So that should be addressed by Ms. Holly to Ms. Miller. The way I see it, but Ramalo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for answering my question. Treasurer Keckler and Councilor Representative in the Woods. Yeah, being that I'm just starting today, there's some things questions, these are just common questions I have. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett.
Yes.
Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo.
Out.
Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
15 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 0 absent, motion carries.
Yeah, thank
Is
you.
that it,
Chairman.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yep, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, we go on to Land Committee. Council, we're a few months behind, and we have a lot of work to do on those minutes, so we'll turn the floor over to Mr. Knife.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. March 21st, 2023, we got a land committee, and you can see the members present, land staff, BIA staff. We called a meeting to order at 10:05, prayer by Tuffy. I'll go through the motions. The first one is a proposed land exchange by Dal Maynard. Appraisals. Dal Maynard proposed a land exchange between Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and himself. The reason for this exchange is to consolidate within tribal range unit 455 permitted to Hallie, Bo, Maynard, and Chris Shrimp. The legal description of land questions Dal Maynard is proposing to acquire as described as follows. And the total is 192.73. And the motion recommended approving direct to BIA, the Bureau of Land Affairs to acquire appraisals in all lands involved in the exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Dal Maynard. That's my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Rose. Comments or questions? Yes, go ahead. Ms.
Sorry.
Haskell.
Mr. Knife, did all parties involved sign off on that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett.
Yes.
Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo.
Out.
Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
15 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 0 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Next one is a range unit 208A, Bob Burnt proposed livestock water pipeline. Melvin and Ty Travesty permittees of the range unit 208A and Kurt Travesty addressed committee to share their concerns with the pending request for a livestock water pipeline with Bob Burnt. The permittees are requesting to keep the current pipeline as is, which is above ground and temporary. That the pipeline extends from is in the name of the committees. Following brief discussion of the committee, want to invite Fisher to Tri-County Water Association future meeting motion to direct Tri-County Water Association Manny Mostez to issue in this matter and the meters of residential only. Motion by Mr. Thompson. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Russo. You have comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I've been getting my going to these meetings, Chairman, and I'm outnumbered. I expressed this in the past that you made a standard as a tribal chairman not to let me sit on payroll commission because you said it was a conflict of interest. But we allowed the tribal council representatives, at least tribal land, to sit on the tribal land committee. So if you look at the minutes, I'm surprised we're already on page 3 because I made a motion right here on page 1, motion to recommend subsidizing lease rate and refer to legal department to request an update of available funds from USDA. The motion not even verbatim of how I stated it, but if you see on page 1 there, I made a motion and there was no second. Motion failed. And if you also look, I made another motion here on page 3. I made a motion to implement a rule that compliance officers cannot have a range unit permit. And I didn't receive a second. So I'm going to point these out, and I want to read these failures into the record because a lot of these motions that I'm making, I'm not just going in there irate and out of control. You know, land is our largest non-human resource, and we need to ensure that this tribe is we're either managing it to benefit the tribe in the fullest extent, or we're gonna we need to find a way to do that. But that's what I'm saying. So I'm not just going in there, you know, wasting my time to get beat up by a committee that's all in conflict of interest. But I'm actually going in there to try to affect change with real changes that I think could help impact our tribe in a good way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. Any other comments? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Planning. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is water reservoirs. Mr. Russo shared his concern regarding the lack of moisture throughout the reservation and the CREP could be used to create reservoirs. And so to reinstate, CRST added to existing dams that should have an archaeological inspection of the boundaries need to expand within the reestablished old water reservoirs. That'll be my motion, Chairman. And that's like the old White Horse
Second.
Reservoir and then Rattlesnake Dam Reservoir.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Russo. Comments on the motion? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree.
Yes.
Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Planning. Bob Walters. Ron Russo.
Oh.
Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is amended lot assignment for Curry Whiteman. During the December 2022 council session, Curry Whiteman was awarded one lot on tribal land located with the Fox Ridge 1 housing area pending release of Strand River Housing Authority. Today, Curry is requesting to remove the stipulation from the motion Motion to recommend to approve Kerry Whiteman request for an assignment of one lot of tribal land located within Fox Ridge One housing area. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters, third by Ms. Lee. Any comments or questions? Madam Secretary?
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Next one is proposed completion of exchange lands with Dana DePreez. Dana DePreez is proposing to complete a land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe and himself. The reason for his request is to consolidate within the current farm pasture lease 674. The legal description of tribal land with Mr. DePreez wishes to acquire is listed as follows. The difference of value is 55.79 will be waived by Dana DePreez. Motion to recommend approving and direct the Bureau of Indian Affairs to complete the proposed exchange of lands between the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe and Dana DePreez described above. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Comments or questions on the action? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller. Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is the proposed land exchange from K. Tavio Vitar Jr. Gar Blackwill Tavio Forte Jr. Proposed land exchange between Cheyenne River Sioux tribe and himself. The reason for the exchange is to consolidate around his home site assignment. The land Mr. Tavio Forte wishes to acquire located within tribal range unit 78, currently permitted to JD and Brock Williams. Legal description to the land in question is that Gar Blackwell Jr. is proposing to acquire is as follows. The motion to recommend approving and accept application packet involved in exchange of lands between the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe and the Gar. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Kessler. Comments, council members? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee. Absent Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
No.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Absent Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Eleven yes, one no, zero abstain, three absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is the proposed land exchange for Everett Hunt. Everett Hunt is proposing a land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and himself. A reason for exchange is not listed on his application. The land that Mr. Hunt wishes to acquire is located within tribal range unit 353, currently permitted to John Hunt himself. Legal description of the land question Everett Hunt is proposing to acquire is described as follows. The proposed land exchange, the motion to recommend approving and accept application packet involving the exchange of land between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Everett Hunt. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Kessler. Comments or questions on the action? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenneth Dupree. Sharon Lee. Absent Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Dad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Bringsplenny. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thirteen yes, zero no, zero abstain, two absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, proposed completion of exchange lands. Carl Lyle Duchesneau is proposing to complete a land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and himself. The reason for a request to consolidate within tribal range at 109, permitted to himself. The legal description of the tribal land that Mr. Duchesneau wishes to acquire is listed as follows. The difference in value is $32,390.74 will be waived by Carlisle Duchesneau. Motion to recommend approving and direct the BIA the Bureau of Indian Affairs to complete the proposed exchange of lands between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Carlisle Duchesneau. That'll be my motion, Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Rose. Comments or questions on the action? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee. Absent Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Dad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Bringsplenny. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thirteen yes, zero no, zero abstain, two absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is amendment to complete land exchange. Christian Ferguson. In January 2011, the Tribal Council approved to complete a land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Christian Ferguson by resolution number 19/2022 CR. Discrepancy of the legal description was discovered and needed to be corrected. The legal description that needs correction is listed as follows. And, I think it's the north half, northwest quarter, southeast quarter, northeast quarter, and those portions of the south 100 25 feet of the northwest quarter, northeast quarter, and the north half, northeast quarter, southwest quarter, northeast quarter. Motion to recommend approving the amendments to the resolution number 19, 2022 CR, corrected a legal description involving the completion exchange of the lands between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Kristen Ferguson. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Russo, or Mr. Rose. Any comments, or Mr. Moran, go ahead.
I was looking at this where it says the discrepancy in the legal description was discovered. Who does the discovering of that? Is that land committee or? Yeah.
Yeah, and the attorney, in the
Attorney?
land office, yeah.
Okay.
What's their name?
It's in the motion. Any other comments? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr. John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Doug Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife, please continue.
Next one is the amendment to completed land exchange for Roderick Moran Sr. September 2019, the Tribal Council approved the completion of land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Roderick Moran Sr. Via Resolution 398, 2019 CR. Mr. Moran requested to correct the legal description to include his home site because his original intention was to own the land where his homestead was located. The legal description of the land that Mr. Moran proposed amend is listed as follows. Motion to recommend approving the amended resolution number 398, 2019 CR to correct the legal description of the lands moved in the completed exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Roderick Moran Sr. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Knife, second by Ms. Lee. Comments or questions? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Doug Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson. Absent, thank you.
Thirteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife,
Next one is the proposed completion of exchanged lands. Constance Dupree's Clown is proposing to complete a land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and herself. The reason for her request is to consolidate the land within Tribal Range Unit 343, permitted to Vicky and Jace Brooklyn. The legal description of the tribal land that Mrs. Clown wishes to acquire is listed below. The difference of the value is $787.50 will be waived by Constance Dupree's Clown. Motion to recommend approving and direct Bureau of Indian Affairs to complete proposed exchange of lands between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Constance Dupree's Clown. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Brings Plenty. Comments or questions, council members? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is a proposed completion of exchange lands. Barbara Dupree is proposing to complete land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and herself. The reason for her request is to consolidate her land closer to her homestead within Tribal Range Unit 4343, permitted to Vicky and Jace Brooklyn. The legal description of the tribal land and Mr. Dupree's wishes to acquire is listed as follows. The proposed completion to exchange lands, or the difference of the value is $412.50 will be waived by Barbara Dupree's. Motion to recommend approving to direct the Bureau of Indian Affairs to complete the proposed exchange of lands between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Barbara Dupree's. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Knife, second by Ms. Hall. Comments or questions, council members? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife, please proceed.
Okay, proposed completion of exchange lands. Carol A. Knight is proposing to complete a land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and herself. The reason for the request is to consolidate her land within Tribal Range Unit 343, permitted to Vicky and Jace Brooklyn. The legal description of the lands that Mrs. Knight wants to acquire is listed as follows. The difference in the values is $787.50 will be waived by Carol A. Knight. Motion to recommend approving direct the Bureau of Indian Affairs to complete the proposed exchange of lands between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Carol A. Knight. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Comments or questions? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson. Absent. Thank you.
Thirteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is the proposed completion of exchange lands. Kermit Dupree is proposing a complete the land exchange between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and himself. The reason to request consolidate the land of Tribal Range Unit 343, permitted to Vicky and Jace Brooklyn. Legal description of the lands and Mr. Dupree's wish to acquire as follows. The difference in the value of $212.50 will be waived by Kermit Dupree. Motion to recommend approving the Bureau of Indian Affairs to complete the proposed exchange of land between the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and Kermit Dupree. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Comments or questions? Council members? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sindowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Henrik Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson. Absent, thank you.
Thirteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is a proposed business site. Evie Clausen Mini Mart. Evie Clausen is requesting an allocation of one lot on allotted land in which the tribe owns 50% interest for a business site located within the community of Shiny Butte. Ms. Clausen informed the committee that she owns the lot to the east, which holds the business mini mart, and that the fuel storage tanks for the business are located on the lot in question. Legal description is as follows. Motion to recommend approving to allocate Evie Clausen an assignment of one lot allotted land in which the tribe owns 50% interest for a business located within the Shiner Eagle Butte community, and to waive the rental fee for the tribe. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Rose. Comments on the action? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sindowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Henrik Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson. Absent, thank you.
Thirteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is a proposed home site. Trista Bird Necklace is requesting an allocation of 5 acres on tribal land for a home site located west of the community of La Plante on tribal range unit 336, permitted to Gene Roberts. Mrs. Bird Necklace has completed the application packet but is not eligible to receive utility services for water at this site. However, she will be working with Indian Health Service sanitation facilities to obtain both water and sewer utility service. The legal description as follows. Motion to recommend allocating Trisha Bird Necklace an assignment of 5 acres on the tribal land for a home site located within the range unit 336 west of the La Plante community. That way, my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Kessler. Comments or questions on the action? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sindowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Henrik Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Yeah, next one is a proposed home site. Cooper Knight is requesting an allocation of 5 acres on tribal land for a home site located west of the community of La Plante and Tribal Range Unit 336 permitted to Gene Roberts. Mr. Knight has completed the application packet and is eligible to receive utility services for water at this site. However, he will be working with Indian Health Service sanitation facilities to obtain both water and sewer utility service. Legal description as follows. Motion to recommend allocating Cooper Knight an assignment of 5 acres on tribal land for a home site located within Range Unit 336 and west of the Plante community. That will be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Russo. Comments or questions, council members? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Underwoods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Doug Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Okay, next one is amended home site. We just did this one in July 2021. Gar and Monique Javier Forteau Jr. are located 5 acres for a home site assigned located within Tribal Range Unit 78 via resolution number 143. Requesting to amend the assignment to correct the legal description to reflect location that is more feasible to set up. Legal description of the land in question is as follows. Motion to recommend amending resolution 143-2021-CR allocated Casagar Monique Tavio Forteau Jr. 5 acres of land for a home site assignment located within Tribal Range Unit 78 to the correct legal description. That will be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Moran.
I missed his name.
Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Underwoods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Doug Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Okay, proposed home site. Ethling R. Curly LeBeau is requesting allocation of 1 lot of tribal land for a home site located within the community of Cheyenne Butte. Mr. LeBeau has completed the application packet and recently satisfied the mortgage for the house. The legal description as follows. Motion to recommend allocating Ethling Curly LeBeau an assignment of 1 lot on tribal land for a home site located with the community of Cheyenne Eagle Butte. That's my motion, Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Underwoods. Absent. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Doug Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Okay, this one's a relinquish a home site assignment. In June of 1999, Vivian Traversy was allocated 2 lots of tribal land for a home site within the community of Shining Butte via resolution number 115-99-CR. Today, Mrs. Travis is requesting to relinquish her assignment since she has turned over her ownership of the home to her daughter, Mary Ellen Traversy. A relinquishment assignment form has been submitted to the Tribal Land Office. Motion to recommend rescinding resolution 115-99-CR assigning Vivian Traversy 2 lots on tribal land for a home site located within the community of Shining Butte. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Kessler. Comments or questions? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sendowitz. Absent Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Deb Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thirteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Okay, proposed home site. Mary Ellen Traversy is requesting an allocation of 1 lot on tribal land for a home site located within the community of Shining Butte. Mrs. Traversy has completed application packet and services are already available onto the site. Legal description as follows. There's a motion to recommend allocating Mary Ellen Traversy an assignment of 1 lot on tribal land for a home site located within the community of Shining Butte. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Questions, council members? Madam Secretary, we ask for a vote.
Bryce Sendowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Deb Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Okay, relinquish home site assignment. Marcella Balker. In February of 1993, Marcella Balker was allocated 1 lot on tribal land for a home site within the community of Shining Butte via resolution number 42-93-CR. Today, the tribal land is requesting to rescind her assignment since the lot has recently been assigned to Deborah Balker. Motion to recommend rescinding resolution number 42-93-CR, assigning Marcella Balker 1 lot on the tribal land of a home site located within the community of Shining Butte. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Here we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sendowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Deb Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett, absent. Francine Hall,
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty, Bob Walters, Ron Russo, Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Proposed home site, Brazella La Plante is requesting to allocate of one lot on tribal fee land for a home site located within the city of Eagle Butte. Mrs. La Plante has completed the application packet and services are already available to this site. Legal description as follows. Motion to recommend allocating Brazella La Plante an assignment of one lot on tribal fee land for a home site located within the city of Eagle Butte. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Comments and questions? Madam Secretary?
Bryce Underwoods, Steve Moran, Ted Knife Jr.,
Yes.
John Kessler,
Yes.
Henry Dupree, Sharon Lee,
Yes.
Mary Miller,
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell,
Yes.
Doug Rose,
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett, absent. Francine Hall,
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty, Bob Walters, Ron Russo, Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife.
Okay, next one is amendment to an easement, South Dakota Highway 63 North, FHU and Bros Engineering. Yannicka Wilcock, PE, Project Manager for Felsenburg, Holt, and Yulvig are requesting to amend an existing easement of right-of-way along Highway 63 North to amend the legal description to state 150 feet to allow the shoulder width increase and improvement of vertical alignment of the highway for safety measures. The original easement is still being researched and will be presented with the request of tribal council. Motion to approve South Dakota Department of Transportation request to modify an existing easement for the right-of-way along Highway 63 North to amend the legal description to state 150 feet to allow for shoulder width increase and improvement of vertical alignment of the highway for safety measures. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Second by Mr. Kessler. Ms. Medicine Blanket.
Good afternoon, everybody. Council Rep Miller reminded me that I do not have an attachment in here in this packet for this particular easement. I think I was still working on getting the original easement that we would be amending. But I was informed that there was an easement in place. So when I get that resolution together, I will send over to the Secretary's office.
Maybe we should wait for that,
We'll table
Mr.
that.
Knife. Okay. Go on to the next one.
Okay. Permit for improvements, range unit 367, Joe Rose. Joe Rose is requesting consent for a permit to improve on allotted land in which the tribe owns a 2/3 interest of livestock water and stock dam repairs located within tribal range unit 367, permitted to himself. Legal description as follows. Motion to approve Joe Rose's request to consent for a permit to improvement within allotted tract X 384, in which the tribe owns a 2/3 interest to repair a livestock water stock dam located within the range unit 367. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Knife. Second by Ms. Lee. Comments or questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Moran?
Buddy, this improvement here, it stays with the tribe, right? Like it did before? Right.
Any more comments? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Underwoods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Abstain.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Sophie Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thirteen yes, 0 no, 1 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries. Mr. Knife, please continue.
Okay. Next one is a proposed easement for artesian well, range unit 366A. Mike O'Neill is requesting approval for a permit for improvement on tribal land for a purpose of drilling an artesian well located within range unit 366A, permitted to Mike Wade and Terry O'Neill. This is a project with the FSA's Emergency Conservation Program and will tie into the existing water line. Legal description as follows. Motion to approve Mike O'Neill's request for a permit to improvement on tribal land for the purpose of drilling an artesian well located within tribal range unit 366A to drill a new artesian well to improve access to water located within range unit 366A. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Knife, second by Ms. Lee. Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Underwoods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fourteen yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries. Mr. Knife, please continue.
Okay, next one is a removal of permittee, range unit 89, Almeida Lawrence. Almeida, Deb, and Robert Lawrence, permittees of range unit 89 are requesting to remove Almeida from the grazing permit. The removal of the permittees farm has been signed by all parties. The grazing permit on range unit 89 in conjunction with ordinance 71 shall now read Deb Lawrence and Robert Lawrence. Motion to recommend approving range unit 89's request to remove Almeida Lawrence from the grazing permit with Deb Lawrence and Robert Lawrence. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
We got a motion by Mr. Knife. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Kessler. Comments? Yes, sir. Use your mic.
Yeah, they all signed off on it.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I was just asking if you submitted a letter to agree with the actions.
Thank you. Any other comments, council members? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Underwoods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brings Plenty. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is a joint permit, range unit 89, Jordan Fiddler. Deb Lawrence and Robert Lawrence, permittee of range unit 89, are requesting to add Jordan Fiddler as joint permittee into their grazing permit. The joint permit application and a cooperative management agreement have been completed and signed by all parties. The grazing permit for range unit 89 in the conjunction with ordinance 71 shall now read Deb Lawrence, Robert Lawrence, and Jordan Fiddler. Motion to recommend approving the joint permit application to add Jordan Fiddler on a grazing permit for range unit 89 with Deb and Robert Lawrence. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Knife. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Walters. Comments? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sinowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brinksplenny. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is joint permit, range unit 147, Jet Williams. Tom Williams, permittee for range unit 147, is requesting to add Jet Williams as joint permittee onto the grazing permit. The joint permit application and a cooperative management agreement have been completed and signed by all parties. The grazing permit for range unit 147 in conjunction with ordinance 71 shall now read Tom Williams and Jet Williams. Motion to recommend approving the joint permit application to add Jet Williams on a grazing permit for range unit 147 with Tom Williams. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Kessler. Comments? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sinowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brinksplenny. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
$14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries. Go ahead, Mr. Knife.
Okay, next one, joint permit, range unit 264. Arlen Lawrence, permittee of range unit 264 is requesting to add Kristen Lawrence as joint permittee onto the grazing permit. The joint permit application and the cooperative management agreement have been completed and signed by all parties. The grazing permit on range unit 264 in conjunction with ordinance 71 shall now read Arlen Lawrence and Kristen Lawrence. Motion to recommend approving the joint permit application to add Kristen Lawrence on the grazing permit for range unit 264 with Arlen Lawrence. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Knife, second by Mr. Walters. Comments, council members? Sergeant at Arms? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sinowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brinksplenny. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, next one is the farm pasture abstract allotted. The following 22 to 27 farm pasture abstracts was advertised in accordance with the CRST Ordinance 78. The bid opening was held on February 17th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Mountain Time bids received are listed below. Lease number 651, minimum rate, dryline farm. And then Jace Brooklyn, 35 for dryline. John and Carmen Cluster, 4450 dryland farm. John Rocky Long Break dryland farm. Jasmine Holmes dryland farm, and Robert J. and Slade Farley. Motion to grant approval to award allotted farm pasture abstract 651 to John and Carmen Kessler for 5-year lease to an annual rate of $44.50 per acre for 198 acres of dryland farm for an annual rate payment of $8,846. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Knife, second by Ms. Lee. Comments? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Bryce Sendowitz. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Abstain.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Thad Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brinkspine. Bob Walters. Ron Russo.
You don't do those? Yes. Don't do those?
Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll do the prep.
13 yes, 0 no, 1 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Chairman, I gotta go back to this one where it referred to tribal council on a CREP agreement draft. There's a brief discussion. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you turn back to page 17. There was a motion to recommend approving a motion to refer the ordinance 27 issue regarding eminent domain to tribal council. I don't know if you guys want to discuss that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
if they're going to discuss the issue, I would respectfully recuse myself as I have an immediate family member involved in there. And I'll step out of the room. Somebody please let me know when you're done talking about it. That's the ordinance 27 one.
Yeah, it's the allotted land issue with Ms. Vivian Hyatt continued. It's the third paragraph from the bottom.
Well, if it's 2 for, 2 against, 3 not voting, that would fail. Right? Okay, so we'll go on to the next one.
You're right, I apologize. So the next one on our agenda is to, at the bottom of page 17, the CREP agreement draft was referred to tribal council. A brief discussion commenced in regard to the current draft agreement for the CREP program and what the cost share amount should be for the producer and landowners/tribe. The topic of the enrollment process was also briefly discussed in regard to requirements of permittees, lessees, and landowners. Motion to refer the draft agreement between the producer and the tribe to tribal council.
Do you have the draft? Do you have the resolution?
Is that ready to be presented by Mr. Randall?
Yeah, it could be.
May I-
Good, yep.
Okay, so these minutes are back in March, so if anything's ready from Mr. Van Norman, it's been some time between then and now, so I don't know if you guys have discussed this since during council sessions or where we're at on that. If you guys want to just move on or?
Yeah, we can, I know there's a draft resolution for council to consider, and we can get copies of that. And perhaps we'll just, how about we take 5 minutes, Mr. Knife, and then we'll reconvene. We'll continue with the land report, though, and we'll get copies of that draft, of that CREP agreement. So order. Ms. Medicine Blankets passing out the resolution regarding the CREP implementation. And this would be the next step, I believe, in this whole process. I could present and read into record, unless you want to read it, Mr. Knife or Carly. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Kendrick, I have to make you a copy. Okay, I will start from the third whereas. Whereas the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe is a prior sovereign nation composed of 4 bands of the Lakota Oyate, Itazipcho, Minikoju, Sihasopa, and Ohenumpa, sorry. Whereas the tribe, in order to establish its tribal organization, to conserve its tribal property, to develop its common resources, and to promote the general welfare of its people, has ordained and established a constitution and bylaws. And whereas the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe has authority to contract with the federal government by virtue of its status as a federally recognized Indian tribe, prior sovereign nation, and pursuant to the CRST Constitution, Article 4, Section A, power to negotiate with federal, state, and local governments, regulate commerce, and whereas the USDA has offered to enter into contract with the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe to enroll up to 1,500,000 acres of reservation Indian lands in the Conservation Reserve Extension Program, CREP, with a minimum annual payment of $13 per acre, and CRST entered into said USDA CREP agreement pursuant to resolution number 178-2022 CR. Whereas the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe desires to engage USDA in contract negotiations concerning up to 1.5 million acres of land on the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation, which includes all lands in Dewey and Ziebach County, South Dakota. See Solemn v. Bartlett, 465 U.S. 463, 1984. And whereas the CCC has the authority under provisions of the Food Security Act of 1985, as amended, see parentheses, and the regulations at 7 CFR Part 1410 to perform all of its activities contemplated by this agreement. And whereas the purpose of the USDA CRST CREP agreement is to allow, where deemed desirable and appropriate by the USDA CCC and the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, certain acreage physically located within the project area to be enrolled or re-enrolled as applicable in CRP through this CREP agreement. And whereas the minimum price of the CREP per acre is $13 in addition to any existing CRP agreement, and the goals of the CREP agreement are, when full enrollment is achieved: 1, enroll up to 1.5 million acres to maintain, improve, and protect grassland productivity through rotational grazing and water development. 2, increase livestock and/or bison carrying capacity on average on land enrolled in CRP through this CREP. 3, reduce erosion in, riparian areas along water bodies through rotational grazing and cover enhancement. Whereas to implement the USDA CREP program agreement with Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, CRST, and grazing unit permittees and farm pasture permittees must enroll and sign the USDA CREP program agreements for specific parcels of land. Now therefore be it resolved that the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe requires that eligible grazing unit permittees and eligible farm pasture lessees participate in the Conservation Reserve Extension Program through the agreement entered into between the CRST and USDA to the full extent permitted by the program rules, which include signing and enrolling specific parcels of tribal land under permit or lease, rotational grazing and engagement in conservation practices to promote healthy grasslands, conservation of resources, and preservation of wildlife habitat, among other themes. Be it further resolved that the CRST requires such participation, enrollment, and sign-up for the USDA CRST CREP program agreement when never eligible as a condition of receiving a permit or lease for tribal land. Be it further resolved that the CRST tribal member allottees may participate with regard to their individual Indian trust lands under the CRST USDA CREP program agreement on a voluntary basis, and grazing permittees and farm pasture lessees are required to participate with individual trust landowners as outlined above for tribal lands as a condition of their lease or permit. Be it finally resolved,
Motion
disclaimer.
approved.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Russo. Is there a second? A second by Mr. Kessler. Comments, Mr. Russo?
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Underwoods?
So I tried to get my hands on this yesterday. I was in contact with Mr. Van Norman. I see that there's a clause in there. To me, when it says the minimum price of the CREP per acre is $13, in addition to any existing CRP agreement, and the goals of the CREP agreement are when full enrollment is achieved. Does that say that it's going to allow a stacking of these USDA programs? And then the next thing I see is on the be it further resolved that the CRST requires such participation, enrollment, and signing up for the USDA CRST CREP program agreement whenever eligible as a condition of receiving a permit or lease for tribal land. That's the mandate. But that's a really vague way to mandate something. I feel like they're putting the mandate in the at the end of the clause to me is creating ambiguity. I wonder if why Mr. Van Norman is making it foggy on the mandate. I want to make sure that we're clear on the mandate that this tribal land will get signed up for, and then specify who's going to be signing it up for. Is it going to be the tribal director, the tribal land director that's doing all the signing up, the tribal chairman's office? It doesn't say the permittee or the lessee will be doing the enrollment. Chairman LeBeau, that's my question on the mandate is are we, it needs to be more specific on the mandate. It needs to say that the permittee or the lessee will be mandated to enroll whenever eligible
You can,
as a condition.
there's one change on that second paragraph, on the second page. It was recommended that we change must to shall. So it'd say grazing unit permittees and farm pasture permittees shall enroll and sign the USDA CREP agreement for specific parcels of land. And then yes, sir, we can. And then on the therefore be it resolved that the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe requires that eligible grazing unit permittees and eligible farm pasture leases, then you'd make an amendment and insert shall participate in the Conservation Reserve Extension Program. So if you'd like to add those two amendments, I think that would meet what you're trying to say, Mr. Russo.
All right, I'll add those amendments.
Okay, second still there, Mr. Kessler. Any other comments? We got a request to get Mr. Van Norman on the phone. Go ahead, Mr. Kessler.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm glad we're going to get this approved. Finally, we should have done this several months ago. But I believe what that's in regards to are there are permittees that are enrolled in programs already. And I think that was the wording to allow them, once that their programs have elapsed, then at that time they would enroll. That's if we're not going to get to stack these programs. So I think that's why the wording was written that way. Thank you.
Mr. Walters, go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is for the tribal land, but what about the allottees? Who enrolls the allottees land?
Mark, we have a question for you regarding the CREP resolution for implementation. Who enrolls the individual Indian trust lands? In the resolution, it says it's voluntary. Is that correct?
They have to do it themselves?
I don't know. I'm having trouble hearing that. Let me try and go back upstairs.
Yeah, and in the resolution, Mr. Walters, it says that's voluntary for the individual Indian trust lands.
But, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, for the.
Go ahead, Mr. Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But a lot of the allottees aren't gonna understand that they would have to individually enroll themselves. This is gonna triple their lease check by enrolling into this CREP program. A lot of them aren't gonna understand or know that part of it. I think somehow, some way we need to implement it and like the land director said, have BIA getting a hold of these allottees and get them entered up into this CREP program so that they will get more money for their land. Because to my understanding, it would like triple their lease check. Thank you.
Mr. Kessler, go ahead, and Mr. Russo, Mr. Underwoods.
Thank you, Chairman. I have looked into this process somewhat, and it is quite cumbersome and very confusing. And the last I knew that the stance of the BIA over here was that they're talking about individuals going in and signing up for this. And I think we need to make a motion to have the BIA as the overseer of allotted lands to sign up for all of it, for each individual, because each individual probably isn't going to make it in and through the process of getting this done, and we could simplify it by having the Bureau do their responsibility. They oversee that land, so they should be able to sign off on that. And because there's going to be some conservation practices that are going to be involved in it as well on the reporting side of it. And I think as the permittee, that's something that we're going to be out there doing as on the tribal side of it is already. And I don't know why we couldn't take that part up for the individual landowner as well. So if we could get them signed off on by the BIA as a whole and find a way to designate us as the individuals that will be reporting for that landowner, because my range unit, I've got one of the bigger allotments in mine, and hundreds of people. So I just see where if the government would step up at this time and find a way to accomplish that for us, that it would make this thing move. Otherwise, we're going to be stalled in the water. And I even had an individual calling about there's certain people that have lands that they own that they could be enrolling on themselves. And that's why I was looking into the process so that I could help these individuals accomplish that. And it is quite taxing. So I think we need to pressure the Bureau at this time to make that move. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Hang on, I got Mr. Russo and then Mr. Underwoods and Ms. Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Go
Chairman,
ahead.
so that, can we make an amendment to this resolution to incorporate that? I don't think it would take much. It would just identify that the BIA will also mandate them to kind of do what we're doing, because that, at the government level, where we're at with the tribe and in managing our land resource, we're recognizing there's resources here and the need to mandate that enrollment. We need to place that burden onto the Bureau. Here in this resolution, I think would be an appropriate spot for that, and just outline it, be a short clause that we could easily add to this memorandum. Do we still have Mr. Van Norman on?
Yes.
So if we were to add just that line there, a short paragraph into this resolution in regards to allotted land, but I also want to make sure that we are able to stack, because the USDA does allow stacking of its programs. So if they're telling any of our recipients or lessees that they don't, and by us taking advantage of this CREP program, I'd hate to see any USDA officials out there trying to hold bars against our members or trying to wreak havoc with the tribe's process here. So that I'd also like to see that we allow the stacking, and then so to allow the stacking, and then the last thing is the $13. Does it specify where that money's going in this resolution? Is that going to be going to the tribal treasurer, to the tribe? 100%. Does that need to be clarified in this resolution? That's all I have. Thank you, Chairman. I'd make some amendments though if I need to.
I would say that it probably should be clarified, and that we should think about what other tribes are doing. I don't think other tribes are going to take 100%, because you're going to find out that the CRP is going to sunset, and the CREP is the new program that's coming in. And so your folks are going to feel that they should get some share of the CREP if they're managing the grazing and the wildlife, et cetera, in regard to CREP. So I think you're going to want to check and see what the other practice is among other tribes.
Mark, you wanted to, you mentioned the having BIA sign up allottees as that's their trust responsibility to get the best and most out of their land leases. So is that something that we can insert into the resolution?
I think we can insert that the allottees should be notified of this program, that there can be a financial benefit to them, and how that should be a notification to them, so they're encouraged to sign up. And I think that's reasonable to do that.
You want to make that amendment, Mr. Russo?
Just the one amendment?
Want to make it a separate action? Okay. Okay.
I got some questions if Ron's done with the floor.
You done?
Mark and Chairman, I think you need to bring the superintendent over so we can run this by him, and maybe he's got some wording in there for the allottees, because that's his duty to do that. We got 1.2 million of tribal land, about 200,000 of allotted land, and just $13 is the question would be is when the BIA comes out with their their rate, let's say it's $15. Does that mean that 13 is on top of that 15? That needs to be answered by the superintendent right now. So if you can call them and bring them over before they all leave. And then, Mark, there's some language in here that, like that therefore be it resolved, and next be it further resolved, when you have the CRST CREP program agreement whenever eligible. So we need to know the eligibility of this. And then it has as a condition of receiving a permit or lease for tribal land. Nothing about allotted land. So I'm glad this discussion's here. What is the BIA's involvement for the allottee? You know, and this has nothing to say about the agriculture resource management plan that's in Ordinance 71, and it's supposed to be updated every 10 years, but this body has never done an agriculture resource management plan. And that therefore be it resolved, when you're doing this rotational grazing and engagement and conservation practices to promote healthy grasslands, put in there conservation of resources, preservation of wildlife habitat. We need to put regenerative soil practices. That is a trend now. And there's Iowa ranchers and farmers that are doing pretty good. But it's a hard sell for farmers because they're regimented into what Monsanto and them all pushed on them involving pesticides. It's a pretty bad deal. So the CAP lawsuit against the producers and packers, that had a lot of effect. So I'd like to hear the superintendent, and I hope this body here, council, on behalf of the lattes, is a take on this too, and you're ignoring that, Mark. And then you also got the 4 bans in here, so now you're talking treaty. And you're talking negligence here. You're always putting in there the 4 bans, those spies here, under the treaty, who are really the landowners here. And then you kind of put that same about prior sovereign nation. You have that twice in the whereases. But if this 294 million is something out there and it's 29 million a year or whatever that is, we don't know those calculations yet. And BIA needs to answer that for the lattes, for that 200 and some thousand acres. If they come up with that rate and the lattes are getting $44 for that farmland, what is that? How does that apply? And would that $13 be added to that to make that $57? That needs to be answered by the Bureau, and we need to get that now. So I'm hoping we can table this till we can get the superintendent here and to see what his take on this question specific to you and to the superintendent, and also for the chairman to get that person here. And in Article 8 in the 68 treaty, it says that when 100 Lakotas get together, because you mentioned the 4 bans here, but again, there's nothing benefiting the landowners here, the 4 bans, nothing. And this federal recognition might go away too. So we need to go back to the supreme law of the land, Mark. And even the Pope now recognizes it's a moral obligation under the UNIDRIP for the 4 bans to be heard. So I'm kind of, when this came in, me and Ron did our best to question that whole agreement, and then you signed it, and it's up to 1.5 million acres. But you know, these are kind of concerns here that I think our people need to be involved in. I think this is being ramrodded down, and the council is going along with it without getting these questions answered for the latte and for the 4 bans here. I'm kind of, if this money's there and 10 years from now, things change, that they're going to change. You look around, it's going to change. And the best thing here is our grandmother, Mother Earth, that's going to provide for us in this prison camp here. You know, but we have from the summits of the Bighorns to the east bank of the Missouri rivers that we're not even talking about. We're not even talking about the Mets and bounds that of the 1851 treaty territory. We're not even talking about all the resources extracted from the 51 treaty territory, which is a vast amount. When these United States was the fledgling, and the white brothers were fighting the white brothers back in the 1860s, it was our resources here that their gold in them hills. That's the saying of the Black Hills. That their gold in them dar hills. You know, that they're talking about our resources that got them out of bankruptcy after this war, the Civil War, and those resources are still ours. And that's being totally ignored by the attorneys. And it's being ignored by this body here, because all we're stuck on is federal recognition. And we better start looking at something deeper, who we are and where we're going. So I'd like to see the superintendent here, but it appears like our chairmen are afraid to bring these guys in. I was asking the former chairman, multiple times to bring the superintendent in. Never happened. I'm asking again, Chairman, bring the superintendent in on behalf
No,
of the
we can't do
Latis,
it.
Chairman.
No, we took him to the river, so he's not available.
He's still over there. We tried this before. Try to get rid of a superintendent, and it's up to them up there. They're a federal agency. We have a lot of authority here, but
Mr. Underwoods, we're gonna,
yeah, Mr. Chairman, can
We're gonna
you
leave
get the
that in there?
superintendent here to answer that question here on the Latis? What is the BIA's involvement for the Latis?
we're gonna leave the resolution, that portion in there where it's voluntary for the allottees. And then, like Mr. Kessler said, we're gonna take that up as a separate action. Because we heard the legal, they said, leave it in there, that they should be notified. So that's what we're gonna do is leave it in there for now, the way it's written. And then we'll do a separate action. We can bring in your superintendent if you
Well,
want.
this is under consultation now with USDA, and this is consultation with the BIA now. You're ignoring that consultation on behalf of these allottees.
Yeah, we're gonna handle that
you
separately
need to bring
than
it
this
in.
resolution. That's gonna be
Bring him
handled
in.
separately.
Bring the superintendent in. Let's gonna ask some questions of him. Just
Yeah, we
like
can
I
bring in
asked Mark.
we can bring him in if you want.
Bring him in.
But that's gonna be separately, so we'll go on.
I want that question answered now.
Yeah, you can ask him that
That
question.
1.2 million acres of tribal land, if it's that $13 it says here, is that on top of what what the rate is? Is that $13 on top of that?
Yes.
Is that right, Mark?
Mark, you
Mark.
there?
Yes, I'm still here.
You said is the $13 on top of any other money that we get?
The $13 is not on top of the CRP, but most of our land was not eligible for CRP. So this is a new eligibility and a new revenue stream for most of our land, including most of our allotee land. So this is a benefit, and it's voluntary for the landowner to participate. So it's a new stream of money, and we want to get into it as soon as we can, because this is new money to us. It is coming in through FSA. We do have a tribal member that works over at FSA. He did get a lady, Kimberly, can't remember her last name, but she came out several times to meet with us, and she did clarify some of these questions. So this is a voluntary program, and we want to get our acreage enrolled because this is providing us dollars for our grassland management that haven't been there before.
What have we given up? What are we giving up? And like I said, when Zach said this was one of the regenerative soil practices, which needs to happen, protecting our watershed, protecting everything like it says in here, but it doesn't say regenerative soil practices, which it should, because people need to understand that. The land director needs to understand that. The BIA superintendent needs to understand that. And when you ask people in these federal agencies and here around the table, they don't even know what regenerative soil means. And it's all out there. It's being practiced right now. That means no more double stocking and triple stocking and under the table monies and all that stuff that's been going on for decades. We need to really protect these lands now. And these lands have always provided for the Lakotas. And the Lakotas have been denied all the way because of attorneys, Mark. You need to start recognizing the 4 Ospayas here. They're the real landowners. That's why the superintendent's over there, is because of that treaty. And Deb Holland now, we have a female Native person. So we have a lot of opportunity to do a lot of great things, and we need to do that for our people. There should be no poverty here. The land is our casino here. I heard somebody tell. The land is our casino. And, that means monies, but we got to protect the water, we got to protect our people, we got to protect the land. That regenerative soil practice will do it. So in that Article 8, it says when you grow a valuable crop, there's bonuses to do that. So we need to look at a bonus for these leasees, and when they're doing these things, then there should be a bonus there involved to help those people that are doing that. But when the Dakotas were being exterminated over there under illegal war crimes against them, when they recovered, they started a freight system, and they started planting gardens to eat. That's how they recovered back then. We don't have a freight system, and we don't have we need steel buildings now like plants do because of the climate change. We need to have one in every district, every community to grow food. That's what this is all about, to provide food and jobs at the community level. Even that 25 million coming down, that's not much. But that's to bring the buffalo back to our people. And when anything bad happens, like some of those bad winters, a lot of the cows die. It's been proven already, and we got to think Lakota now, Mark. We can't be thinking this federal Indian law stuff, because the Pope said we got a moral obligation now, and some attorneys are saying we got to rethink federal Indian law, because all that does is make these federal recognized tribes kowtow down to the federal government. Even your brother said that.
Okay.
It's a discriminatory.
Mr. Inowoods, thank you for your comments. I'll go on to the next one. Mrs. Hall?
I just wanted to make sure that whatever language we put into our amendments to this resolution include the BIA's fiduciary duty. When they lease a lottee's land, they send out a notice to every allotee that they're going to lease their land, and they have to sign. They include a form that they sign, agreeing to that. And then it becomes the responsibility of BIA as the trustee to get the best price for that leasing of that land. And so whatever language you put into a resolution, needs to highlight that in concert with their obligation as a fiduciary, they can act as the agent, for the allottees. And they can notify every one of the allottees just like they do for the leases, and there can be a form that says, if you want to participate in this CREP program, that you sign and agree to that. But again, that's going to be on the BIA. That's their responsibility, to avail themselves as the trustee for the allottee. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Moran, and then Mr. Bingsbani.
What I want to say about this CREP is fairly new to me, but any kind of extra little monies that people get, Ushika people, they like it, they want it. And so I'm in agreement with this resolution. And also, there's a part that says rotational grazing and engagement in conservation practices to promote healthy grasslands. That kind of references back to the Lakota, us Lakota, that were known for the stewardship of this land, we took care of this land. So that's good, I like that part. But there's a part for Mr. Van Orman, is it? I have a question that, it's on the third whereas, and it references, sovereign. It says is a prior sovereign nation. Can you expound on that a bit? What do you mean by that?
Before there was the United States, the Great Sioux Nation was a sovereign. We are prior to the United States. And our sovereignty is prior and flows from the inherent will of our people long ago to have a nation. So we are a prior sovereign nation compared to the United States. And it's our territory from the beginning.
Okay, thank you, but what I wanted to say was, you know how the Washichus are out there finding any way to diminish us or diminish our sovereignty. When we put words like this in a resolution, you know this resolution goes into up to Washington. And I think it's a little dangerous to put something like that on there, to give that thought to the person, because from what I read, to me, it says that we were a sovereign nation, and we try to claim that we are still, you know? And that's why I thought maybe some other words might have been better to apply there. But thank you.
Mr. Bringswani?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that some of the language in here, it's in regards to allottees. It's given them an opportunity to voluntarily, on a voluntary basis, participate. But as we've known, you know, how the BIA has been with a lot of our landowners, it's with the range units, it's made it very difficult for landowners to utilize the land, to live on the land. In most cases, some individuals, we have a tribal member up there that's having issues just gaining access to her own land. And there's a mandate that our landowners have to fence it. So I don't know if it's clear that our landowners to enable to be a part of this, I mean, are they gonna have to fence their own lands? I mean, most of these range units absorbed lands, range unit lands. They've absorbed individuals' lands. So if they're absorbed into it and it's being enrolled, those should be a part of it. Why is it so difficult for our landowners, tribal landowners, versus these individuals that are leasing, or leasers, or permittees, or whatever? I mean, it seems like it's kind of the autobahn for some individuals in a fast pace, achieving things for them, but in the long run. But for our tribal members, especially with lands, it's made it difficult. You know, the land back got a lot of land for the tribe. A lot of these lands here belong to our tribal members, and they don't know it. You know, we got them living over there at the Powwow grounds. We got them lined up over at 212. You know, they're living a tough lifestyle, and that there's a whole history to why our community is in the situation it's in. But the land, this is a resource. This program could be a resource for some of the issues like the treasurer had brought up last time we were in council, in regards to some of the funding and the issues that we're going to be facing with ARPA basically being depleted. So one question is are our people, you know, and it kind of goes along with what's already been said, our people, are they going to be assisted in enrolling these? And if so, then it shouldn't be as difficult as it's been made for them to be able to utilize their land. Next one is I've heard discussions on percentages being kicked around. We have a huge need. We have some individuals that can't supply the basic needs and necessities within their own homes. and a lot of them lean heavily on the tribe. In order for us to be able to continue and maybe even create some successful social welfare programs, this funding could be used. There was also discussed, I think, in building up some of the reservoirs and stuff, but things like that would be good. I'd like to see within the resolution 100% of the funds going to the landowners. The tribe's a landowner, but we also have a lot these individual landowners that if you take a look at what they're getting per lease, I mean it's under $1. Maybe it's like under 25 cents an acre throughout the year. That's what they get. And I don't know how the system works there, but if it's $13 an acre for those individuals, it's not gonna be a lot, but it's gonna help them throughout the year. It's gonna be a lot more than 3 times, believe me. I mean, if you get a person that receives $100 throughout the year for 20 acres, maybe they're gonna get, over 2,000 for sure. That's a lot more than what they're getting now. So I'd like to see it in the resolution that 100% is going to the landowners of those lands that are being enrolled. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, I'll amend my motion to add the amendment that Mr. Bringsplenny suggests. Thank you.
Okay, we got an amendment to the action to put in the resolution that if the allotted landowners sign up for the program, that they'd get 100% of their share. Second still there? Second still there by Mr. Kessler. Any more comments or questions? Mr. Walters? Mr. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What about the allottees that don't lease their land, that their land is pulled out of lease? Are they able to do the management plan with their land? Or are they just out?
If they're using their land for agriculture, they should be and enroll their land if they have a small pasture or a small area they're farming, then they're eligible.
Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Kessler, or Haskell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. I believe the only lands that you can't roll in this program is farm ground because it's a grassland program. So you'll have to take that into consideration. There's 2 types of lands for the individual landowner. There's people that own land that have it in range unit status. So that permittee will sign up for it, but that portion of that money should go to that landowner. The individual landowner that has their land fenced out and is utilizing it themselves, they're eligible to put in for it and receive the whole 100% of it. And if you guys just run the numbers at 1.2 million acres of tribal land, that's going to generate $15,600,000 a year on top of what we generate in leases. So on an average year, you're going to generate a little over $20 million a year for the tribe. And so basically you're adding 15 million bucks to your general fund budget. On the individual landowner at 300,000 acres, you're going to put another $3.9 million in their IMM accounts. Over a 15-year period for the individual landowner, that's 58 million bucks that individual landowners are going to receive. The tribe over that 15-year program is going to generate $234 million. Now think of the things we can do with that money. Think of the things we can do for our children, our elderly, our people that are having tough times. Think of the things we can do with that, guys. You know, it's a great opportunity. Also that no one's talking about is within this program is a separate pot of money for the people that want to improve, the leasees that are leasing the land. There's a private pot of money for them to do improvements on tribal land. So now how it works is you go up and you want to build a dam or you want to build a fence line, you want to put in for these programs, everyone's in the pool. And only a certain few get chosen because they got so many applications. While with this program, if a leasee of a range unit wants to build a new dam, a whole separate pot of money is available for them to get 50%, up to 50% cost share. So instead of that producer having to pay 100% of that program will cost share 50% of improvements on that tribal piece of land or that individual landowner's land. So to me, it's a win-win for our tribe. It's the opportunity to bring $290 million over the next 15 years to this tribe. And I think we should vote on it and get the ball rolling. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Walters and Ms. Haskell. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Haskell, go ahead.
I'm quick. I think that you should write a letter to USDA requesting financial assistance or a job position for the CREP management. I believe that's something that they will assist with. We just have to request it. So I don't know how close you are with Mr. Ducheneau, but if you could put a bug in his ear that we do need that position.
Yes, ma'am, that's a great idea. We
Thank you.
discussed that too, I believe, and previously in discussions with USDA. Mr. Underwoods?
Chairman, who's all enrolled in CREP right now? Because it's saying that in that first page, project area to be enrolled or re-enrolled as applicable if it applies in CRP to the CREP agreement. So how many of you guys that are leasing land are you in CREP right now, Tuppy? No? Does the CRP give you more than this?
CRP can only enroll that in land that you owned individually. And I'm not a landowner, so.
So it's all tribal land then, right?
Yeah, the CREP. If you got individual land, you can enroll it in the CRP program.
Just like your situation with that tribal land and a lottees in there, then what is the figures there then? I mean, what actual figures are there? And you'll have to work with the lottees to get the best bang for the buck if you can get it. But then again, the tribal lands, if backable, that's what the attorney just said. He said, not all of these lands are gonna, apply. So we can't really say 1.2 million of tribal, acres, and we can't really say 200,000 allotted lands. Not all of them are. See, that's what I want to know. I want to know that. Not just me, but I think every allotee out there and the real landowners is our membership. They need to know this too. We have to inform them of this. The way I'm seeing it is like we're kind of ramming something that we need to, we need to look at the actual now. Start working on the actual. But right now, some of this language, I can't support it. Phenomenal.
Council, it's important that we approve this resolution today so we can get enrolled in this program. I mean, we're already enrolled. We did the agreement back in January. We signed it. And what this resolution does is it implements it into our land systems that we currently use, adds it to the management plan for farm pastures for range units. So it's a good deal. It's a lot of money. This is more than JTAC, and it's a great opportunity for our tribe. You know, implementing traditional practices like the buffalo did. The buffalo would naturally rotationally graze, and so that this is a good practice, like some of you said. So we'll call for the vote, Madam Secretary. Oh, and if you don't vote for this, then you don't get to spend the money. Madam Secretary, go ahead.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenneth Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Dad Rose.
Yes.
Dirk Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Bringsplitting. Bob Walters. Ron Russo.
Oh,
Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
$13 yes, 0 no, 1 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries. Thank you, council. Good job. And thanks for getting on, Mark. We'll be in touch.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
when we had a range unit, we got an NCRS, I think it was, is that what it's called? NRS or anyway, NRC. We got one of those grants, and what we did was we fenced that whole unit and did rotational grazing, and we put those paddocks in. Now, I'm going to tell you, back in 1984, 83, I think it was, we received an A&A grant. The tribe received an A&A grant, and part of that grant was to work with the range unit holders on the reservation, and we held, series of workshops, and we paid for attendees to come into Eagle Butte and down at the landmark, and we presented information on rotational grazing from Ellen Savory, and a few people attended, and really that was conservation practices. And one of the things we learned in that was, whenever cows graze and you just put them out, they're going to go to the grasses that they really like, and they're going to eat those first. They're not going to eat all, it's like going to a banquet table, is what the presenter said. And you're going to go and you're going to graze the foods that you like, and you're going to leave, the other ones, until that's all that's left to eat, then you will eat it. So whenever you rotationally graze your land, you put them in the paddocks for a certain number of days, and they're going to eat everything in that paddock, even the. And then you move them to the next paddock, and you keep doing that, and you rest the land that they're not grazing on. And so we introduced these concepts to these ranchers. And like I said, we paid for them to come in and attend, and not everybody did. There were a few that saw the importance. Now, if we're going to do this, we're really serious about conserving our land, and making our Unchimaka healthy again. Then I know our grazing period is going to be starting here, the 5-year grazing period. And I really believe that we, since we're through this resolution, are mandating that they participate in this program. I think we should also put in that grazing code that when they lease land, that any improvements stay with the land. So if there's fencing, that needs to stay. All of the improvements that we did in those paddocks, when Mr. Holm got that range unit, after he he went in and he tore up everything, all of the fencing that we had done, so I just want to make that, we need to put that in the grazing code, that any improvements stay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kessler?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a motion by resolution that would direct the Great Plains Regional Office and the Cheyenne River BIA Office to work with the USDA to develop a process for all allotted land to be able to be enrolled in the CREP contract for the upcoming permit period to benefit the land and its owners.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Kessler, second by Mr. Brinksplanny. Mr. Underwood, comments?
Chairman, I support that, and like what Francine was saying, about 20 years ago, when I first got in as council, there was a guy up there, and he was telling council, he worked for the Bureau for like 30 years, and he asked council at that time, and I was just new to council, and he said that, you guys know what you're sitting on? And then he told us we're sitting on the top 10% of the best forests in this country. And he said that acre, it had 130, 140 plant species. But with this livestock, what they're doing with livestock only, it's down to 30, 40 plant species. A lot of that's Pajuta too. So this, from now to then, this regenerative soil practices is trying to rotate, like what Francine's saying, rotate and be planting and rotate those animals so that you get back to at least 100 plant species. So everything that grazes in there, all the microbes inside those plants that keep healthy, keep that animal healthy, keep us healthy, everything benefits. We really need to get into regenerative soil practices, because that's what Francine is just talking about. But you have to plant too. You have to be active. You have to, and it's proven now. It's proven. So maybe we need to bring in some of these guys like this Iowa farmer rancher, and he's going around too. He's making presentations.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, Mr. Underwood.
So this is what the allottees and what this tribal council and all of us here that make decisions, we need to know this, understand this. Because to me, it's called natural law. And that's what the Lakotas live by. We need to get back to what the Lakotas live by, natural law. Because man-made law is killing us. It's killing the planet. So we need to seriously look at this, because things are very serious now, and we need to be addressing that and helping our people. Salam.
Any other comments on the motion? And Mr. Kessler, can you send us the action if you have it on your phone? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Bryce in the Woods. Steve Moran. Ted Knife Jr.
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yes.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller. Yes. Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Dowd Bose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brinksplanny. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
$14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries. Mr. Knife?
Okay, Chairman, I think you got a couple more actions here. Be the 2022, wait. Big game season. Mr. Kambelek, wildlife biologist, presented the proposed season and fees and limits to this year's big game season. Attached includes the draft resolution for details of motion to approve by resolution recommending the 2023 big game season and fees. That'll be my motion, Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Mr. Knife. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Lee. It's the approved by resolution, the recommended 2023 big game season fees and limits. Yes, go ahead, Carly.
I spoke with Mr. Chalmer Kambalik, the wildlife biologist for Game Fisher Parks, and I believe these were approved by executive already. That's why they're crossed out on the agenda. No? Sometime after March.
I guess we can go to the next one, Mr. Knife, because the secretary says we approved it by executive resolution.
May I?
Oh, go ahead, Carly. You had
Mr.
something else?
Knife, we still have to address the matter of returning mineral rights to original state pending documentation. So there is a motion that was referred to tribal council. Council Rep. Russo inquired of the businesses within the reservation boundaries and whether the surface and minerals are included in the lease. Following a brief discussion, Council Rep. Russo will research the matter and have information for council. That is on page 18.
Go ahead, Mr. Knife.
Mineral rights.
On top of 18, you got the mineral rights. Then it says referred to tribal council. There's a motion to refer to tribal council the matter of returning mineral rights to original state pending documentation. Motion was by Mr. Thompson, second by
Okay, yeah.
Mr. DePreez.
Okay, I'll make that motion, Chairman.
Did we get the documentation?
No. 2, 4, okay. That motion didn't pass, Chairman. Failed.
Okay, I guess it failed. That mineral right.
But, Chairman, that one on the mineral rights right above there on community lands, beef, buffalo farm, I made this motion and this is incorrect. This should be an action item. I made a motion on 3 council actions, and I gave those council actions to Carly. One was establishing a district tribal beef herd, district tribal farms, and reintroduce the buffalo into the districts and communities, individuals, and for the director to come up with a plan and proposal, and then to get range unit maps and farm pasture maps to set aside tribal lands to carry out these council actions. And at the time, BIA land op, Jerry Bynes told me I needed to ask the superintendent to get these maps. So I said, well, this is kind of like your job, technical assistance to provide that. And then she said I had to ask the superintendent. So, and the vote count is incorrect also. The vote was 5-4, 3 no. That was the vote count. So this whole, ever since March, 5 months ago, it's frustrating. And we're trying to empower the communities. These are council actions. And then we get a motion like this that deviated from the actual motion. I remember who voted yes and who voted no. So I'd like to make that motion now, and I wish we had the maps. It seems like from this point to now, there's a lot of things that are starting to be revealed. But this year was just a motion, and I mentioned the 25 million coming down for the Buffalo, which Brian Newland said was, and Weezy Pongera said would create jobs at the community level, kind of a shovel-ready. Iron Island is ready for this. And we're still living in poverty, you know, the poorest reservations in America. And our people, you know, strong and resilient, powerful people. You know, and then you hear a report like that, 2023, that we're still the highest poverty rate in America. It gets very frustrating. So I'd like to make that motion, Chairman, the actual motion, and to get those range unit maps and farm pasture maps for the council, and start looking at building our districts and communities with these 3 council actions.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Underwood, second by Mr. Rousseau.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak to that?
Yes.
I'd like to share some. I personally believe in our Indian medicine, our native medicine people. And I go to ceremonies, and I'd like to share a prophetic vision that one of our medicine men had. And he said that in our lifetime, there's going to be a famine. And the people that depend on the grocery stores for their food are going to be the first ones to perish. And so he urged us to go out and tell the people to start growing gardens, canning their food, getting back to doing that, because they will survive. And, so I really think about his words. And a few years ago, when they were putting in these community gardens, I thought, yes, that's good. That is good, because we also need to teach our people to be self-reliant. We come from people that lived out on these plains, strong, hardy, resilient people. They knew how to live off the land. And, true, our culture has really been disrupted. And a lot of those old ways are lost, but they're not lost forever because of, these medicine men. I asked this medicine man, I said, because he heals people. And I said, how do you know, how do you know how to heal? And he said, well, the spirits come to me in my dreams, and they tell me that I'm going to be conducting a healing ceremony, and what kind of plants and herbs and where to go find them. He said, sometimes I make trips to Canada because there are plants that grow there that don't grow down here. And, and I really respect that wisdom. And I believe in that, because I personally have witnessed some things that I cannot explain. And I know, they've opened my eyes, because I was a doubter. But so whenever I hear things like, what Mr. In the Woods is proposing, my dad was the one that made that motion for 4 and 8, range units 4 and 8 for the West End, because they needed to have some income so they could, they could do things for their communities. And, and so they still have those. They still have at least those range units. So, anything we can do to create sustainability in our communities and to teach our people to be self-reliant, I think, we need to really explore those. We can't replicate what the federal government did to us, and that is to make us dependent. So we can't make our people be dependent, always coming to the tribe for basic needs and so forth. We need to teach them to, you hear that phrase about teach a man to, you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. But if you teach him, then he can feed himself for forever, And I think, we need to look in the future, okay? We need to be forward thinkers and think about what's ahead. That's the way our people, our leaders, our Itancha, our chiefs, that's how they made decisions. They always looked at how is this going to benefit our people in the future, 7 generations. I really like for us to get back to our native way of thinking. Pilamiae.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. Council, we have a motion and a second. By Mr. Underwoods and Mr. Rousseau. And it's on those minutes, right? You want to state your motion for the record? Use your mic.
The motion is to get the 3 council actions. 1, establishing district tribal beef herds. 2, to establish district tribal farms. And 3, to reintroduce the buffalo into the districts, communities, and individuals, and have the buffalo director come up with plan and proposal to look over, to have the range unit maps and the farm pasture maps to set aside tribal lands to carry out these 3 council actions.
Okay, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Bryce Underwoods,
Oha.
Steve Moran, Ted Knife Jr.,
Yes.
John Kessler.
Yep.
Kenrick Dupree. Sharon Lee.
Yes.
Mary Miller.
Yes.
Kelsey Haskell.
Yes.
Todd Rose.
Yes.
Derek Bartlett. Absent. Francine Hall.
Yes.
Joe Brinksplenny. Bob Walters. Ron Russo. Tuffy Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent, motion carries.
Council.
Mr. Knife, was that it for the your land minutes? I know you have more, but is that it for those ones? I believe those are done by executive, yeah. Okay. Mr. Russo?
Chairman, I had a question on these minutes. I kind of want to make a motion that if you have a tribal ranger and you can't sit on the tribal land committee, that's the motion I want to make.
Council, let's recess until morning, 9:30.
Second.
Good day. We can discuss that more in the morning. Thank you.